Good morning, guys. Welcome to another episode of Xa Talk Show. Today is 2021, March 27th, almost end of March, and spring spring is coming up. It is March 21st is spring, the onset of spring. So today the topic is gonna be Emacs and Emacs Lisp. Okay, Emacs and Emacs Lisp. I'm not sure what to talk about actually. I don't have a focused topic, so if you have questions, this is the right time to ask me. Okay, anything related to Emacs. So we're gonna focus on Emacs today. And there's a question already. What do I? So there's a question from Q0. He says, "What do you think about the default undo and redo mechanisms in Emacs? Is it good? If no, from your experience, would you recommend a better alternative?" So Emacs undo and redo. That's a long story. Okay, so let's search for. I'll go Emacs undo redo. Okay, I have articles on that. Long story. Okay, let's look at two of the articles. It's magnify. Okay, actually I did a video talk about that in 2019 December 4th. Actually we don't need to magnify because so Emacs undo and redo. Now if you don't know, Emacs has a very different undo redo system from all the other modern applications. In Emacs, the undo, basically essentially you don't have redo. Okay, Emacs has only one concept, undo. So you can actually redo as well, but that is achieved. So you can think of undo as a history line. So in Emacs you undo. In other applications, in modern applications, you undo, and when you see that's a point you want to start over, then you can redo. Okay, I mean you can undo, or redo, and once you find the spot you want to basically start over, then you start to type something. Then all those undo and redo are lost. Basically you have a line of history, a linear line, no branches, not a tree, a linear line. So in modern applications, you can just undo or redo until you find a point, then you start from there. Then whatever you've undoed or redoed before is gone. Is basically you cannot go back to them. So that's a modern concept of undo and redo. Now in Emacs is different. In Emacs you don't really have a redo concept, but you can achieve that. So in Emacs, the way Emacs work is that again you also have a line of history, so you can undo. There is no redo. Okay, so what if you want to redo, like move up there? So what you do is you type something. Emacs will record that. Then you undo what you typed. Then you undo your previous undo. Okay. So, let me try another way. Okay, you don't type something, you press escape. Basically you do something that's not undo. Then you undo again. It will undo the undo. So in some sense, the Emacs way is in some sense actually simpler in some sense, but in reality it's actually very complex because it's even hard to explain. There's a lot of websites you can search for Emacs and do. You'll see them trying to explain. It's basically like a roller coaster. It's non-trivial. It's not easy to see at which point is your undo history, because Emacs, so you undo. If you want to redo, you either type something or press escape, control G to cancel. You do something that's not undo. Then you undo again. That is actually correspond to redo, because you are undoing the undo. So if you undo again, you are undoing the undo the previous undo. You are undoing the previous undo. If you undo again, you are undoing the previous undo. So that's kind of the way Emacs undo works. So there's no redo concept. So what? So this has certain advantages. If you ask the Emacs fanatics, they'll say, "Oh, this is better." Because why? Because in this way you don't lose your undo history at all. You can always, whatever you undo or redo, you can always go back to it. The problem is that it's very difficult to find, because it's very difficult to find exactly at the point you want to start over. So that is the difference between Emacs undo and the modern applications undo. The modern applications undo is very simple. You undo or undo redo until you find a point. You start from there. Then whatever you've undoed or redoed before is gone. Okay. So I started to basically for 10 years so there are a lot Emacs packages that am I doing fine? Okay, I'm doing fine. There are a lot Emacs packages that tries to add the modern redo concept and feature, so you can actually undo or redo just like a modern application. There are quite a few, but however they all have a problem. They all have a corruption problem. Okay, so I've been using this package. I've tried them all. So 1997, there's a package called redo.el by this guy Kyle E. Jones. Now Kyle E. Jones, I kind of know. He's on the news group Gnu.Emacs or comp.Emacs, Gnu.Emacs.help or comp.Emacs news groups. News group is dead. So if you are young, you probably don't know what that is. News group is the basically online forum, but that's before the World Wide Web existed, before the web pages. So anyway, so in 1997, Kyle, he's a very well-known Emacs Lisp coder, but I haven't heard from him, for almost 15 years now. I wonder how he was doing. It might be interesting to look up Kyle E. Jones. Because back then he was on, he's one of the big Emacs Lisp coder. So in 1997, he created redo.el that gives you redo feature in Emacs. So you don't have to. So it's very easy to find which spot you want to start over. Then in 2008, there's another guy, redo plus.el, which is a modification of Kyle E. Jones' package, updated by this guy S. Irie, okay, in 2008. Then in 2009, this Toby Kut created from scratch a new undo redo package, okay. Again, the primary purpose is to allow Emacs to have the modern redo, so you don't have to go around roller coaster, don't know where you are. But however, so I've been using them. I've been using each and every one of them for several years. So I begin with using the Kyle Jones. Then I saw, oh, there's Redo Plus. It must be better. After 10 years, I used that. Then in 2009, this undo tree came up and become widely popular. Then I started to use that. Suppose this Toby Cubitt guy is a mathematician. He's a mathematician, a professor. You can go to his website. I do have a link to his website, but somewhere, or maybe I removed it because over the 10 years, many websites come and go. Anyway, he's a mathematician. So, but the problem, one big problem is that they each one of them all have a fundamental problem. That is, sometimes you are doing undo and redo, and all of a sudden Emacs says no more undo. But there's undo, but Emacs just tell you there's no more undo. In other words, the undo history got corrupted. Each one of them have this problem. Okay, every one of them. I don't know, until all of a sudden after a year. It doesn't happen often, but after a year, you do something serious coding, you are, you feel free to do a lot of undo and redo, thinking that you can get it back. But all of a sudden Emacs this says there's no undo. It fucked up your, then you lost, this 10 minutes of coding. So that each one of them all have this problem. If you go to Reddit, you'll see people talk about that problem. But this problem is hard to debug because, first of all, it's very hard to reproduce. It doesn't happen very often. But once it happens, you are fucked. Usually you don't want, because you rely on knowing there's undo. For example, delete the whole package and I changed a whole paragraph and I changed something, and I thought, let's try it the way it was before, then I can just undo. So they all have this problem. So that's a big problem, and that's a big problem. Why does this problem happens? Because undo is a very fundamental Emacs feature. It's deeply, it's part of C code, I suppose. If you let's say, let's see, wait, where's the, okay, so let's go to simple.el. So here is the undo code. Wow, hold on a second. Let's see. So hold on a second. Let me magnify. Okay, let's magnify. So let's see undo code, narrow to region. So it's got 100 lines. Fairly complex. Anyway, so why these are great Emacs Lisp coders. They are Emacs Lisp experts. Many of them been coding Emacs for over 10 years, almost probably every one of them. So why does this happen? This corruption? I don't know. So nobody knows. So I presume it's because the undo feature. It's I never actually looked at the undo code, but I suppose it's fairly complex. It's a core of Emacs. So whenever this external packages tries to modify it, it's hard. It's prone to bugs. I don't know exactly. So nobody knows so far. So I haven't seen a guy who actually create a reproducible way to have undo corruption. It happens to each one of these because it happens to me. It happened to me for each one of these undo package. All of a sudden I can't undo anymore. I lost work. So that's one problem. The other problem, there is a Emacs fanaticism, because in Emacs community almost every year people will complain, Emacs undo because it's unnatural, but the Emacs fanatics will insist. They'll insist, oh, you are just window idiots. Yeah, that's their mentality. Maybe they are not as rude as I am, but basically their mentality is that go fuck yourself. You go use your window. Go to use your Windows. This Emacs code, fuck. So there's this very strong Emacs code. They tell everyone to, Emacs undo is the best because you don't lose things. You don't lose your your undo history. So so this happened, and so I have an article on that, Emacs undo and Emacs code problem. Goddamn motherfucking Emacs undo. Oops. Now my YouTube is gonna be censored for good. I actually I shouldn't be too much of a rant today. And so I'm going. So if you have questions, type my name, and I'm gonna read the questions. So anyway, Emacs undo problem, and it's also a code problem because the Emacs fanatics, they refuse to change. But meanwhile, the fact is, almost every year you'll see on Reddit or whatever is a current forum, people will complain. Oh, Emacs undo, how does it work? How do I get the how do I get redo? People want the modern undo redo system. Happens every year, and otherwise, why would people? All three guys, every 10 years, another guy writes a redo package. Why does that happen? Because people do want it. Meanwhile, in the Emacs community, everyone is saying no, Emacs undo is the perfect one. So it's a problem. And then then there's a corruption. This deep problematic corruption issue. So it's a mess. Okay, so it's a mess. It's not a good situation. So what can we do? I would recommend. I personally, I would recommend that you have to get the Emacs people, the GNU developers, not not writing another package, external package that fixes Emacs undo, because that's not going to work. You want the Emacs Lisp developers to change the fucking Emacs core so that either it adopts the modern undo redo system, or provide a system so that you can have a choice, either the old Emacs undo system or the modern way. The one of the code problem with Emacs is that because Emacs is very old, 30 years old, Emacs has undo before any other application. So in a sense, you can say Emacs invented undo. Okay, yeah, that's true, but things change. So which is better? So now let me jump to another question. Which user, this has to do with user interface or user experience. Which one is better? On one, I actually think the modern way is better, because the modern way, you can undo or redo, undo or redo to the point you recognize, then you can start over from that. Okay, but whatever happened, that you can throw away. Basically, very few people really care. It does happen sometimes you made a mistake. But on the other hand, the Emacs undo system, it's very hard to find, to locate the point after you have some undo and redo, because it's actually, there's no redo. It's just undo the undos. So you don't know. After a while, you cannot. It's very hard to find where you are. But it has the advantage of you never lost your undo, because you can just, but you cannot find it. That's a problem. So between these two systems, if I have to make a choice, let's suppose I'm Richard Stallman. I'm telling people what to do. I would say use the modern system. Throw away the Emacs, this way. Okay, I would say the modern undo is a better user experience system. Okay, that's the situation. So currently, I'm not using any of these package. Once I discovered the corruption problem, so I stopped using any of these redo thing around 2015. Yeah, around that 2015, I stopped using any of these redo packages. I just use Emacs undo. So if I want to redo, I just press Control G, then undo again to undo the undo. And sometimes if you want to do a lot redo and undo, it gets very confusing. At that point, once you have a few undos of the undos, you basically become lost. So you just be careful. You just careful. Don't over undo. Okay, or don't over undo the undos. Once you find it, stop. That's so. Today with Sapphire keys, I don't use any of these package. I just use Emacs undo, plain Emacs undo. So that's the situation about the undo. Okay. So let me see the questions. Oh, can you write in chat what you are saying? Please don't have a headphone. What? Can you write in chat what you are saying? Please don't have a headphone at the moment. What are you talking about? So Ernest says, what happens if you undo your undoing of undo? If you undo your undo, you have redo. Okay, it's even hard to demonstrate, because yeah, it's hard to demonstrate. You have to, there are articles you can go read about it. Hey, good morning, break the loop. Break the Loop says, I have a question about the purpose of Mathematica as a programming language. Is Mathematica's applicability closer to Excel VBA in that is visualization and numbers crunching tool? Okay. Break Loop, did you watch my last video, the video yesterday? Because I think I explained that for 10 minutes. No, it's not like Excel or Visual Basic. That's is it's and so what is the purpose of Mathematica? It's as a programming language. Okay, so it's so please watch my yesterday's video. Yesterday's video, I spent 1 hour explaining. The primary thing I explained is that why Mathematica is a artificial intelligence language. Okay, and it's not like an application. Like a lot of people who never used Mathematica, they see it as a application. Like for people who don't know how to program, you can get results. It's not. In some way it is, but it's a programming language. Okay, it's a Lisp and APL based programming language, and I would say the expressibility is far more powerful than Lisp or Haskell or Erlang or whatever. So anyway, watch my yesterday's video. So it's nothing like Excel, VBA, but Visual Basic. What the heck? Visual Basic is one of the language, VBA, right? Visual Basic. What does the A stand for? Visual Basic is one of the language programmers despise because it's like easy. It's for people who don't know how to program, and it does things very inefficient, slow. But it's Mathematica is not like, and Excel is like. So it's not like that. Okay, I would say it's a artificial intelligence language, far more better than Lisp and Haskell or any other, and it has industry. The industry is mostly scientists and engineers, biochemistry, chemistry, physics, mathematicians, and also these days machine learning, cryptanalysis. Right, you posted, right? Break the loop. Are you trying to ask questions to help me to talk about it? Yeah, you posted Break the Loop posted a blog where this guy deciphered one of the interesting cipher murder case where the murderer uses crypto analysis, secret messages sending to taunt the cops. And the guy who recently, finally, after several decades, used Mathematica to decrypt it, decipher the encryption. So FBI is right now looking into it still. So that's a great article. So let's see if I can find it. Anyway, I want to talk about Emacs Lisp today. So Mathematica, Mathematica San Francisco murder decryption. Yeah, so here is the blog. Okay, so it would be interesting to read for you guys. So there's a very famous murder called Zodiac Killer. You can find it. There's a Wikipedia article on that. So this is unsolved, murder in San Francisco back in 1950s, I think, 1960s. Okay, serial killer, I think. So very interesting. And then just recently, this month or something, one guy used Mathematica to find out what he's saying. So here is his message. So anyway, this is nothing like Visual Basic or Excel. So anyway, are you wearing two glasses? Yes, one is for nearsightedness, one is for old age. The reading glasses, because I'm getting old. DMT says, doesn't undo tree solve the problem you are talking about since it retains the history of changes? Well, yes, but I was saying it has corruption problem. Okay. Yeah, Richard Stallman, it's controversial, lots of controversy. Visual Basic for applications, okay? If there was a way to talk solidly, it would be to compare Mathematica to Visual Basic. That's right. Ernest says, I see your perspective of what a language should be is to be able to analyze things. Thanks, makes sense. When taken term language literally. Okay, so is there anything about Emacs? So that's about undo and redo. It's a problem. Emacs, Emacs users is dwindling and dwindling. So about a week ago, I did a video on Doom Emacs, and that video became popular. That video became popular. 1,000 views. For me, it's popular. So I'm thinking, I in the past few videos I didn't read the comment too much, but if I did at that time, it would save me a lot of time. So I went through the trouble of installing Doom Emacs on Windows, but eventually I did it. But then I wasn't able to use it because when doing a video, like, you are kind of multitasking because on one hand you have to figure out what you are doing with Emacs. Meanwhile, you have to do it fast because you cannot spend stall for 2 minutes to read something. so the thing with Doom, I realized, is that the first thing to study Doom, to be able to use Doom, is that you have to get acquainted with the evil mod. So basically you have to learn evil mod because that's Doom's default. If you want to learn evil mod, then the first thing you have to know is a little bit Vim or VI. Okay, so actually I have a tutorial on VI. So go all the way down. Emergency VI. So that's basically, you have to know the basics of VI, then you can use evil mod. Then you have to learn the complexities or intricacies of VI in Emacs, because it's not exactly like Vim, because you are kind of emulating Vim in Emacs. So that's what I have to learn in order to use Doom smoothly. So anyway, what else? Okay, how long have I been talking for? 28 minutes. Anything else? Doom Emacs has a lot of buzz around it. Yeah, it's fairly popular. I was kind of surprised, and the guy Henrik listener says that he actually have there's a lot stars on the GitHub. He actually says half of his income came from donations. So that's fantastic. That's an achievement. I'm wondering how is Fly, I mean SpaceMax, compared to the popularity. Okay, let's go to let's go to, oh yeah, so this window, stupid NVIDIA. Let's go to SpaceMax. Let's see Doom Emacs. Okay, let's compare their popularity. Let's see. One way is just to look at their GitHub stars. So Doom Emacs has got 10,000 stars and 1.8 forks, 1.8 thousand, like 2,000 forks. So let's go to SpaceMax, go to GitHub, stars 21,000. Okay, so SpaceMax is actually twice as popular. Yeah, SpaceMax. So they are both very popular. I'm thinking one of these days, actually, I need to do a SpaceMax. I try SpaceMax as well, and also, a lot of people has been asking for soft-like keys to be, to be integrated in SpaceMax and also in Doom Emacs, and right now they are not, and there's no clear, instructions on how to do so. I can understand it because basically each person, they focus on their their opinion, the way they like. So they don't, why should I spend extra time to integrate Doom Emacs into software keys, in a similar way? People are thinking that. So I have to. So if I really want to help people to run software keys in Doom Emacs or Space Emacs, I have to do it myself. I have to, um, yeah. So I have to spend time. It takes actually few days to actually do that. So these, many of them use some Emacs technology that's new to me. So you have to study it because, for example, Doom Emacs created its own kind of package structure, and also using the straight.el, which is a new kind of functional declarative package management system for Emacs Lisp. And SpaceMax also has its own system. SpaceMax like have layers. I'm not sure how exactly it works. That's something I would be interested to know. To know, not necessarily the SpaceMac or using it or Doom Emacs, but I want to know. I would be interested to know what they do. I mean the mechanism, what kind of system they implement. So yeah, but there's a lot of time I have to spend a lot of time to dive into that. Several days or a week, probably a week. But usually there's not much financial reward, and I'm getting old, so I need to I need to I need to do Mathematica, and I need to get on some other things. Golang, I don't have time to do this. Did you check this Remax project? Yeah, Remax project is the Emacs implemented in Rust. Again, from what I hear, they are making progress, but nothing to show. So Emacs implemented in Rust. The idea is that Rust is a language, basically a modern. You can say it's a modern C. Okay, because it has C is very old, 30 years old. So Rust is kind of a C replacement in a sense. It's a modern C, in the same category, in the same use case, purpose as C, because it's very close to the CPU. It lets you control the memory, exactly. So it's supposed to be very fast. So the idea of implementing Emacs in Rust is that it will be much faster, I suppose. In general, that's the idea. And meanwhile, it also updates the tremendous, piles of shit accumulated in Emacs. That is true. If you look at history, the other day, one of the guy, Jeff Truel, he is the founder of the Emacs Meetup San Francisco. You can go to search for Emacs Emacs Meetup San Francisco. You'll find the page. He runs the Emacs Meetup. I used to go, in San Francisco Bay Area, and we meet up in real life. But since the coronavirus, we that stopped. So he organized some kind of online meeting. So last week he did one where he demoed Teco. Teco is the father of Emacs. So you can see that lots of Emacs terminology, Emacs philosophy, Emacs thinking is actually from Teco. So why is a buffer called buffer? Because back then you cannot display the whole file. You only display part of it, and that's why it's a buffer. So so this is one of the Emacs problems. On one hand, it's very old, and on the other hand, so there's a habit. And Emacs is kind of dramatic. People refuse to change the Emacs phonetics. Uh, they always fight. They always fight the new ideas. It's a bit complex. New ideas are not necessarily good. For example, like the undo. The modern undo is not absolutely better, okay? But meanwhile, the Emacs undo, if it's not necessarily better than the modern one, too. So lots of Emacs is basically a pile of, how do you say, a pile of baggage. You especially in code, you have huge amount of baggage because Emacs is basically it's the Emacs UI, the code is trying to emulate a terminal emulator, which in turn is trying to emulate the text editor, which in turn is trying to emulate teletype. I don't even know exactly what teletype technology was 30 years ago. So it's a huge amount of baggage in Emacs. So this Rust Emacs project, Emacs, it's a good thing. It's a great thing. But right now it's like I'm not sure they are anywhere, where at the point you want to use. With the tech, the hacker types, they have a tendency to create a project that for hackers it's great. For example, if I want to use the Emacs, what do I have to do? I have to read. I have to spend a few hours, reading. Oh, maybe I need to download a GNU compiler. Maybe I need to. Does it run? Maybe I need to run a Linux. What doesn't work? Maybe I have to adjust memory cache or whatever. It's very technical. So that's no good. So for a tech geeker, for a hacker, yeah, it's great. After I spend a few days, then oh my God, I can run, this new Emacs and everything works great. It's faster. But you want to get to a point where people just click download, then they can run it. That's what you want. That's every application. For example, browsers. The Google Chrome browser, Firefox browser, Windows Edge browser. That's your aim. That's what you want to do. But with the hacker types, they always they have an inherent mentality to refuse it, because if you do that, they think it's for stupid people. They don't want that. It's a problem. So until one day, the Rust Emacs, I can just click download and everything just runs. I'm more than happy to use it. Yeah, I'll switch right away. But that's not, they don't have that situation yet. I don't know when. And another problem, also with a scheme, Guile-based Emacs, that's also another fantastic thing. But you cannot just download it. You have to study it for a week or two. Then you can actually compile a Emacs with Guile scheme Lisp as replacing Emacs Lisp, as an engine for Emacs Lisp. That project has been going on for 20 years and it's still like dead in the water. And in a GNU dev community, there's always flame wars, because they don't have structure. Everyone is just mouthing opinions. Oh, we don't want that, and then there's the old war between Common Lisp camp and the scheme Lisp camp. So typically the common Lisp people, they don't want they don't want the Guile Emacs because they don't like the scheme. They want the common Lisp thing. And the generation. So now we have new generations. Many of these old frameworks are forgotten, but it's still there because a lot of the GNU Emacs dev, they are still they are pretty old. They are like my age or older than me, some of them. Okay, did you check okay, so I think I tried some Doom things, but the latency of commands became high. Yeah, that's another issue. Okay, if I may say so, I'm peddling my own system, Xafly keys. Okay, you install Xafly keys with plain GNU Emacs, and you have a system that's faster than any of these. I can guarantee you. Okay, of course I wrote Xafly keys myself, so that's I'm selling my own things. I'm giving good opinions of my own stuff. But you can compare. So I would say why Xafly keys. So I would say I would claim it's more efficient and it's faster because the SpaceMax and Doom Emacs, they are primarily they are based on the Evo mod, and for Evo mod they have tens of packages so that Evo mod works very well with other mods. For example, you then I think both of them use Helm or Ivy something, so that when you do something, for example, open file, you have very fancy colored, syntax highlighting, you know. But so that's great. Many of the feature is great, but I think if you prefer the simpler system with, and also lots of good. Let's see if I can magnify the font. You don't necessarily need Helm or the fancy other, and it's faster because all these interfaces, they adds up time, like a few microseconds, but you can notice it because last time I was trying Doom Emacs, I noticed a few microseconds to pop up opening files or stuff. What are the advantage of Guile Emacs Lisp? Okay, use my name. Okay, paste tag me at Xali so I can easily see your question. So what are the advantage of Guile Lisp? Okay, so Emacs Lisp is very old. Okay, actually I talked about this a few times in my old videos. If you search it, you might find it. So Emacs Lisp is 30 years old, 30 or 40. Okay, it's almost let's say 40 years old at least. And there's not really much change to Emacs Lisp. Meanwhile, in JavaScript, in PHP, in Python, in Perl, they have a new compiler written from the ground up every 5 or 10 years. But for Emacs Lisp, it's the same compiler. There's not much change. There's a little change, now and then, but Emacs Lisp is pretty old. And so people have been wanting to change it since at least 2000, year 2K. Okay, like big controversy that people argue, and common Lisp camp versus the scheme Lisp camp. They want to, on one, part of the people, they want common Lisp to replace Emacs Lisp. On the other hand, another camp, they want scheme Lisp to replace Emacs Lisp. There are advantages because Emacs Lisp is really kind of puny. Although it works for as a integrated package for integrated language to change Emacs, but it's not very powerful. You have a lot of problems, It's nowhere comparable to any other Python, Perl, JavaScript. Not nowhere. Okay, Emacs Lisp is very bad. Let me mention again, but the Emacs community, you don't hear that because all you hear is that, oh, Emacs Lisp is graded. But I did a video on that. So Emacs Lisp sucks, really, really bad. You really need to modernize it. But since year 2000, there's a lot talk and effort trying to do so, but they never went anywhere. And one of the, some people wanted. There are several efforts. You can search for it now. Like, in fact, I have an article on that. I'm not going to show because then it's going to take much too long. Just search for XRD common Lisp in Emacs, or search for it. Okay, yeah. Common Lisp Emacs. Okay, so anyway, there's a lot of controversy since it's not this. Okay, this is one of the later articles. Okay, here. Okay, here's the. There's a huge controversy. I mean, today I don't even mention this much because the new generation forgot about this and don't care. It's like history. Okay, so this article is Emacs switching to Guile scheme Lisp, written in 2010, because at that time, in June, there's a big revival. Then people are thinking, oh, fantastic, it's coming. It's not. Now it's 10 years. 10 years later, nothing. Basically, yeah, nothing. Nothing came out of it. Then here's even older article. Okay, thoughts on common Lisp or scheme Lisp based Emacs. This is written in 2008. Okay, I give you a summary of a lot of arguments. Arguments among the people. Back then it's common Lisp versus scheme. Each camp is very adamant about their opinions. And there are several projects. For example, Hemlock is a Emacs based on common Lisp. Okay, it's not really good. All these are not very good. That's why you don't hear them. Then Climax is another common Lisp Emacs. Okay. Then Edwin is a scheme Lisp Emacs. Okay, the URL is dead long ago, but you can still find it. I think if you can still find it if you want to try it. Then Lice, I don't remember what is Lice. Lice is a Lisp computing interface. Sabetts. Okay, I know that guy. This guy. Okay, dead. Yeah, that's what you get when we feel. Okay, Sabetts, if I remember correctly, he's a guy who created ratpoison. The Linux tiling Windows manager. Ratpoison. Then later on, a common Lisp based one called I forgot what's the name. But anyway, he's a big fan of common Lisp. Okay. So I'm showing you some of the projects that tries to make common Lisp, or scheme Lisp, the basis for Emacs. Then there's a Yi. Okay, Yi is the editor. Okay, it's dead. E editor. Wikipedia does not have an article. The article has got removed. E editor is when Haskell became popular, very popular, like around 2008. People are trying to make a Emacs-like editor written in Haskell. That's what E editor is. So I guess it went nowhere, and the Wikipedia article got removed. So there's even older. Okay, so if you actually pay France Inc., if you pay to buy the Allegro Common Lisp, it comes with a editor that's written in Common Lisp. I think I forgot. But anyway, so these are this is written in 2008. Then 2010, Guile scheme Lisp. So what are the advantages? There's a lot, because once you update the there are quite a lot of advantages of replacing Emacs Lisp with either common Lisp or scheme Lisp. One is that you actually get a real programming language, general purpose programming language, because as Emacs Lisp is, you cannot use it to program any other thing, except mostly text editing. You cannot do much, although people try to. People, Emacs fanatics will say, these idiots, they'll say, oh, you can, there's Emacs to view video, to read emails, there's a browser written Emacs Lisp. Yeah, they are, but the code is like a mumbo jumbo. People put a lot of effort to do it. You don't even have a namespace. What the fuck? You're talking about Emacs Lisp. Don't even have a namespace. What the fuck is that? A language without a namespace, and you are saying it's good? I did a video on Emacs Lisp. Okay, it's a one of the circuits language. It desperately needs modernization. So one advantage of replacing Emacs Lisp is that with a modern Lisp is that you get a real language. Then the second advantage is that it usually will be much more faster, because this scheme Lisp, there are so many scheme Lisp implementations, and common Lisp is used in industry, so there's a lot of effort to make them fast. So that's the advantages. Make the using a real programming language, general purpose programming language. That's one. Then the other one is to make it much faster. Of course, they never happen to this day, and we don't know what will happen. It's pretty sad. So, okay, I think maybe that's it for today. So I've been talking for 52 minutes. Any more questions? SpaceMax and Doom is a good start if you can make a system that is great for you. Yeah, I've been tempted to jump into Doom Emacs bandwagon many times, but I'm too invested in my own config, and the whole modal editing thing is not my cup of tea. Okay, Dan says that. Okay, DMT says, I really like modal editing. I really want modal editing for Emacs key binding. Okay, so Vinny Susp says, I like the idea of VI move keys. I mapped my mechanical keyboard to use those on layer. Okay. Elis feels powerful to me though, especially macros. No, I mean, well, yeah. Okay, but you haven't tried any other Lisp. that's the thing. How can you make a judgment about Emacs Lisp without even trying other Lisp at all? Because the point is about replacing Emacs Lisp with other Lisp, common Lisp and scheme Lisp. Okay. So common Lisp is, Emacs Lisp is just a scripting language. It's like a application. It's like Visual Basic for applications, essentially. It's not real general purpose programming language. Yeah, Stump Window Manager. That's the guy, the sabetts. This guy. He, the lice editor. Let's see. README. The Lisp computing interface is a port of GNU Emacs C code to Common Lisp and accompanying Emacs Lisp code. So when is the last update? Let's see if we can see. 2007. Yeah, it's dead. It's dead since, yeah, it's dead for 13 years. But this guy, sabetts, he also wrote ratpoison and Stump Window Manager. He's a Common Lisp fan. And he's also a juggler. And he's on Twitter. Okay, you can sometimes see him juggling. I think he's in Western Canada, last time I heard, like 10 years ago. So next, any common questions? Post it, okay? I think we're gonna close in 5 minutes. I heard Mr. Stallman doesn't like Common Lisp. Yeah, so Richard Stallman is rather, he doesn't like Common Lisp. He's on the scheme Lisp side. Yeah, it's a big flame war. It's a big flame war. Stallman doesn't like anything. I can't imagine spending an afternoon with a guy. He's quite insufferable. Yeah, he's Lisp is useful really on some niche areas. That's why never got consolidated in one dialect. Actually, it may even be better this way. I don't know. How old are you? I have to ask because when you talk about Lisp, you have to know the history, or you have to be there. Okay, so this was the industrial language for artificial intelligence throughout 1980s. So, but around 1990, it kind of died because the artificial intelligence became a bubble, basically a bubble. So all the military and industrial financial support went away, basically. But it was supported by military, U.S. military, and big industry, and so on. So it kind of died. So that's when this machine died. That's when AI, so-called AI winter. You can search Wikipedia. There's an article, AI winter. So beginning in 1990, so this kind of is no longer used in industry. But then it's a big history. Okay, so I read, I wasn't around in the computing scene in 1980s, but I tried to read quite a lot of them. So from what I know, Common Lisp, Scheme Lisp is actually earlier than Common Lisp. Okay, let me tell you what I know about Common Lisp. Okay, Common Lisp, before Common Lisp, there's actually quite a lot other Lisps, and it's a big war, a very ugly war. Just like Python versus Perl or Golang versus Rust. Kind of more severe than today, because today you don't really hear much about language war as a religious war that much, okay, as compared to 1990s. Why? Because today there are so many, there's like exponential growth of languages, and it's common that if you work at a company, you have to know several, like JavaScript. You have to know both JavaScript, Golang, or Python, JavaScript, and you usually have to code in 3 or more languages. It's very common. So you don't even hear much about language war that much today. The concept, kind of went away. But back then it's more severe, okay? And so I'm saying in the 1980s, which I wasn't there, but I read a lot. When you study Emacs history or Lisp history or artificial intelligence history, it's all artificial intelligence is very much tied with Lisp, okay, back then. So when you read a lot history, I see that back then there's quite a few Lisps, Mac Lisp, quite a few. I can't remember the names off my head. So and it's a big ugly war. They don't like I don't like your Lisp, you don't like my Lisp. It's created by different companies. So Common Lisp, and it's a problem because you have all these Lisps, and they cannot interoperate. They are not compatible. That's a problem. Just like today, Windows, Mac, Linux is not compatible. Wouldn't be great if they are all compatible. You can have all the video games and NVIDIA drivers supporting Windows, but you can run on Linux, fantastic, and you can have all the Unix commands, all the Mac fantastic, easy to use graphical user interface. But it's not. So on Windows you have one set of key bindings. On Mac you have to change your command, and Windows they swap, they do it this way, that way, and Linux is different. So same thing with Lisp back then. Different Lisp that are not compatible. You cannot use one software written in one Lisp in another Lisp environment. So there's also a need to make them compatible. That's the idea of Common Lisp. Okay. Yeah. Again, Linux distro too. There's a big war among Linux distros. Red Hat, Ubuntu, Debian, and Gentoo. And Arch Linux. This big, ugly, bloody war. Nobody like and window managers like fuck. That's a situation. Okay. That's because people they want. That's the human nature. Okay, you just want to promote your stuff. And just like companies they sell Google. Why is Apple walled garden? Because Apple wants to just make money. They know, they don't make money and give it to Google. Google does the same thing. Microsoft, they do the same thing. They are considered evil by the hacker types, the hacker idiots. Meanwhile, these Linux idiots, they say, oh, we love humanity. We are open source, everything we share. But actually, look at the distros, look at the window manager. They fight. Without money, they fight for fame. They fight, this is my, system. That's your system. They fight. So Linux distro, they have different package managers. Why don't they, if you are really good for humanity, like merge them so that all Linux packages can be used in any Linux? Why doesn't that happen? It haven't happened for 20 years, and in fact, you have more diverse, package managers. That's the nature of things. Okay, but the tech geekers, these open source fanatics, they don't see it. They just all they see is that the greater good for humanity, like Richard Stallman. and Richard Stallman, then Richard Stallman fights with the open source. Like, you are my enemy, open source. You are a scum. You stole my idea. That's the opinion of Richard Stallman. And Richard Stallman, and meanwhile the open source camp, saying, Richard Stallman, you are just a nerd job. You are too extreme. We need an open source idea so that corporations can also benefit. That's the ESR guy. He pushed for that view. So it's a fight. It's fighting all over. So Common Lisp is trying to kind of create a Lisp that's a standard Lisp everyone can use. But however, it so happens that the result is a disaster. Okay, because nobody, they try to have a community, a committee to decide, these standardized Lisp. But meanwhile, every Lisp corporations, they don't give up their system. They say, oh, you need to have this feature because our Lisp, really want this feature. And so Common Lisp became this ugly giant mess. It has features of all different Lisps, so it's very ugly and complex. So that's why the Common Lisp specification is like 10,000 pages. And some Lisp experts back then say their opinion is that Common Lisp killed Lisp. Okay, you can see. I have tens of articles on Lisp. I'm not going to show it, but just search for Xali Lisp. You will find them. Okay, some of the histories and some of the famous Lispers, what they said about all this history about Emacs and a lot of that. So Common Lisp is a effort to kind of unite to create one standardized Lisp. Okay, so once Common Lisp is born, and the result is ugly. Not many people like it. But then when Common Lisp is born, all the other Lisps kind of died. They died along with the AI winter. Common Lisp remains. Okay, but still, it's also dead too. But anyway, at the time, so you have two Lisps, Common Lisp and Scheme Lisp. They also disagree very much, because Scheme Lisp is actually earlier than. They have a different philosophy, So anyway, people, they cannot agree, and so this Common Lisp versus Scheme Lisp becomes the flame war, very very bad flame war, lasting for like about 20 years, throughout 1990s and 2000s. By 2010, you could say Lisp is dead. Nobody, now you have new generation, the millennial generation, then the social justice, generation. Then you have programmers, so things kind of changed. The hacker types generation is also dead. So, and Lisp is also kind of dead, Nobody fights the Common Lisp versus Scheme Lisp anymore. Why? Because not because they unite, they they become one, rather because both of Lisp is dead. So that's a history. Okay, so that's okay, that's it for today, I guess. Yeah, and scheme Lisp, if you know, I don't know if you know, if you are young, you don't know. So scheme Lisp, then around 2008, they became Racket. One of the scheme Lisp, the Rice University, they created, or they renamed their scheme Lisp as a Racket, okay, and consider it as a new language. So now you have two camps of scheme Lisp. One is the classic scheme Lisp, following the R4RS or R5RS or R6RS, the scheme standard. Then the other camp is Racket. Oh yeah, then you have Clojure. Yeah, right. Okay, I think that's it for today. Anything else? So I've been talking for 1 hour. So if you like my stuff, buy my Emacs tutorial. Okay, buy my Emacs tutorial and stuff. Or donate or Patreon me or PayPal or Amazon gift me. So we close down in 1 minute, I guess. Clojure is a newcomer list. Okay. So Ernest says it seems like each Lisp feature the different Lisps offer can be implemented in any Lisp. So it's why I personally don't understand. No, it's not trivial to implement one Lisp in another. it's actually quite non-trivial. This is an interesting question. In fact, I would claim that to implement a Lisp, it's actually easier to use a language that's not Lisp. Okay, I'm not sure exactly, but that's how I feel. Okay, anyway, so we are looking at Emacs, the Rust-based Emacs, and some of these people I recognize. This guy, Miles Badger, he's also, I guess you can say, he's an old Lisper. He lives in Japan now. He has written, for example, the PDF viewer package in Emacs that allows you to view PDF is written by him. Okay, and we've talked. The last time we talked is like almost 5 years ago, or 10, five. So okay, Abanus. This guy is another. This guy is a very serious Lisp coder, and he's not. Among the Emacs Lisp people, some of them are very popular and maybe dramatic, like me. Okay, like people know about me. He's a dramatic guy. Meanwhile, there are a lot very deep, serious coders that he's the top expert of Lisp and C. But however, they don't write blogs and they don't post online. So you don't know him. This is one of the guy I recognize. Albinus. I don't know how do you pronounce his name. So he, looks like he doesn't even have. What is this? He doesn't even have a GitHub. But he wrote, if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure, yeah, Albinus. He has made core. What did he wrote the font engine, the display engine, font engine in Emacs 2000, in Emacs 25 or 24, the Unicode engine. Okay, he's a yeah. If I'm not, I'm pretty sure he's also a serious contributor to the X11. I think he's a Linux hacker. He knows C and Lisp very well. But by what very well, I mean he wrote tons of code in the core Emacs engine. You cannot see it. Okay, it's like so that's what I Lars, this guy is another he's well known Lisp coder. He has written many very well known things. GWNE is a very well-known in portal or gateway to the newsgroup interface. It was popular for like over 10-20 years. You don't hear it much today because newsgroup is dead. He has written that. Not just that, he's also the author of GNUs, the news reader in Emacs. He's also the author of the U browser in Emacs that began like 5 years ago, 7 years ago or so. U browser in Emacs. So it's a browser written entirely in Emacs Lisp. Okay, that guy. He doesn't. He also has a blog. Okay, yeah, he has a blog and he writes very interesting things. And he's a collector of comics. He collect. Pretty old. So these people. GNUs. Yeah. So anyway, so this guy very interesting. His blog. Lars Ingebrigtsen, Ingebrigtsen, something like that. And he's a Northern Europe guy. I forgot which country exactly. Norway or something. One of the Scandinavia guy. So I'm giving you my the laws of the Emacs Lisp people. Joachim Verona, I think I've seen him on Emacs Lisp Dev quite a lot, like even 10 years ago, I think, but I don't know what he does. Paul Eggert is another core contributor to Emacs Lisp, to GNU Emacs. Okay, like he's one of the main guy in GNU Emacs Lisp Dev. Like if you ask people, all of you Emacs users, even if you are Emacs fanatics, like if I ask you guys, okay, who, in the past 10 years, who are writing the code for Emacs Lisp? Emacs. We have Emacs 24 since 10 years ago, then Emacs 25, Emacs 26, and Emacs 27, which is what I'm using. So who wrote this code? Not Richard Stallman. He haven't been coding for 10 or 20 years. And your answer is typically, you don't know. That's a problem. That's a problem of the GNU Emacs community. You have to know who, they wrote them. They should have credit, not Richard Stallman. The fuck, okay. So most people, you guys, even if you are a Emacs fanatic, if you ask you'll just say, oh, Doom Emacs, the SpaceMax guy, those guys you recognize, or the top 10 very popular packages on Melpa. But they are not the Emacs Lisp, the GNU Emacs contributors, the mothership. So who contribute to the mothership? It's this bunch of people. I happen to tell you, okay, and so I was talking about Paul Eggert, okay. So he's one of the like some of these guys. They are serious C and Emacs Lisp coders. They code, they make the Emacs, the GNU Emacs float. And Monio, this is Stefan Monio, also, he's again a fundamental contributor. He was the GNU Emacs maintainer for like 5 years, okay, around 2010. He's a professor of functional programming, okay. Then this guy Eli Zareski, he's a very controversial guy. He's also a very old Emacs Lisp and C coder, okay, very old. He is, probably the main contributor in Emacs, in GNU Emacs, okay. It's this guy. However, he has a reputation. He's very annoying. This guy is very fucking annoying. because of him. In fact, I could say, I crossed homes with this guy too a few times, but it's been so long. We talk. We know we don't. We have frictions, but he knows me. I know. All these guys know me. I know them. Okay, all these guys. Many of most of them I've chatted, I've talked, I've exchanged flames or otherwise nice emails or on news groups. So Eddie, he has a very abrasive personality in what he says, and not just with me, because he's known for that. He's got problems with almost other GNU Emacs developers, and now and then he'll threaten, if you decide you're gonna have this feature, I'm going to quit. This Eddie guy. So that's Glenn Morris again. He's also a very old Lisper. Now I don't know exactly what he does. I mean, of course he does. He write code for Emacs, GNU Emacs, but I'm not sure exactly what package. But he's also so all these guys are the main Emacs, GNU Emacs developers. This guy. It is this guy you have to thank for. Okay, these people. So they are now helping the Emacs. Oh wait, I made a mistake. The reason they are not necessarily helping Emacs. The reason this guy shows up is because Emacs is they in the beginning they began with the GNU Emacs repo, so that's why. That's why these people's names show up. They are not necessarily helping to write Rust Emacs. Okay, that's it. One last question, I guess. We need Emacs intern. Okay, so pretty much, yeah, kind of funny. It is try the generator. But the question is, do these people also eat the skin from their feet? No, that's the that's a that's a unique show of Richard Stallman. Yeah, Richard Stallman, he's to such a degree doing that in public is really sad. Okay, I know he's a nerd, right? I'm too. Yeah, but you don't do that in public. And you can say, oh, I'm too much of a nerd. I forgot. You don't say, you don't do that. He does that is because he's become one of these, Indian guru leaders. He's like, on one hand, the idea of of free software, it's a good idea that, but you shouldn't take it too extreme to the degree that no other idea should exist. The only good idea for humanity is free software. That's what he thinks. It's extreme in a way. It's a communist. He becomes this dictator, Hitler in a way, in a sense. So in his idea, if you don't have food, if you work for free software and refuse to work for commercial software, then your children is gonna die. And Richard Stallman says, yes, do that. You should do that. That's what you should do. That's what he actually literally said that during interviews. So that's not good. That's not, to that degree, it's not good. You are not a good person anymore. So he become this, like this guru leader, very bad. Then, anyway. Okay, that's it for today. Thank you. Buy my stuff. Okay, donate. Make me float. Bye.